You're listening to Heels on the Diamond, presented by Heels on Franklin. If this episode hits the mark, do us a favor. Like it, drop a comment, and share it with a friend. That kind of support keeps the podcast rolling. You can find all episodes on the Heels on Franklin YouTube channel and on Spotify. So whether you like watching or listening, we've got you covered. Let's get into it.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Heels on the Diamond. Trevor here tonight, filling in for Chris. Got my guy Andrew with me. Andrew, how's it going, buddy?
I'm good. It's been got some rain that we needed, so my flowers outside are growing, but I got to mow the yard. But hey, other than that, going well.
There we go, buddy. Well, hey, man, I'm hyped to get on here again with you. I think this will be my second or third time with you this year, so I'm a lot to talk about tonight. But before we go too deep into it, man, I want to make sure everyone's aware. So obviously the intro, we talk about Heels on Franklin. Be sure to like and comment and subscribe. But Andrew, Chris has been busy. Chris and the team, guys, we got a lot of episodes that have came out recently, a lot of new sporting events and sport teams we're talking about now. Since the last time we joined, Andrew, I think we just had football and baseball and softball last time I was with you. Now we've got Jeff has joined us with Olympic sports. We've got Jaden and Troy with basketball. So guys, just be sure, if you are joining us tonight, if you're not subscribed already, subscribe to the channel, and if you are a Heels fan, which I hope you are if you're here, check out our other sports that we cover. Those guys do a great job, so just make sure you do that. But Andrew, we got a lot to jump in tonight. Obviously, Carolina came off a big series win over a rival in Duke over the weekend. We had a little collapse last night, Coastal. That kind of stings me. I was a little more excited to get on here when I saw that matchup. Man, it'd be nice to come off with a win, but didn't shape out that way. So we'll unpack that as well as the Diamond Heels on the softball team. So Andrew, I'm going to kick it to you. I know we've got a lot to uncover. You did an excellent job with your notes tonight. So I'm going to let you start it off and talk about the Duke series and what you liked.
Yeah. Well, before I hop into that, kind of piggybacking off what you said a minute ago too, Chris pointed out, which I did not know this until he pointed it out, but with Jaden's new show talking Carolina basketball and with Jeff's new show talking Olympic sports, Heels on Franklin as a whole, the whole network, we are covering more UNC sports than any other entity. So I think that's pretty cool that we're able to highlight, all these different athletes beyond just kind of your top 2 or 3 sports. So, but yeah, this past weekend, Carolina makes the short drive over to Durham. What is that highway? 15501? Is that what you go down to get to Duke? I think it is.
Don't get me lying, man. I'm just GPS. I don't pay attention. I just follow the screen, brother. So yeah,
I'm usually like that too. I think it is 15501 down to Durham. And they took on Duke. They go 2-1 on the weekend. They win game 1 3-1. So big thing that really kind of stood out about game 1 is that Jason DeCaro had what I think is his best game of the season so far. We've talked a lot over the last few weeks about how he's kind of been up and down. He'll have a game where he pitches really well, and he'll come out and have a game where he struggles quite a bit. But this week, 7.2 innings pitched. That's the second most he's had all season long. Does not allow a single earned run. Only gives up 3 hits. Had 7 Ks, only 2 walks. So we've talked a lot about how over the last month and a half, DeCaro's really struggled with his command. So to only give up 2 walks, that was huge. And he consistently pitched to weak contact. He had 9 groundouts and 5 flyouts. So a typical kind of what you would expect from a good Jason DeCaro start. Gets some big-time strikeouts, but more importantly, he's getting weak contact. And then McDuffie comes in, goes 1 1/3, gives up no hits, no runs, 3 strikeouts, and ends the game. So game 1, they only scored 3 runs. Only 2 guys, Owen Hull and Jaden Nunez, had some big runs or some big RBIs, but they did enough. And the pitching was good enough. They did strike out 16 times. So that was one thing that, looking back at that game, Duke's Friday guy, which this was a Thursday game, but
Was it a lefty? I know last time we dug into that. Was it a lefty on Friday? I didn't watch
no,
the
it
game.
wasn't. Yeah,
Oh, it wasn't.
yeah.
Okay.
So I was kind of surprised because generally when we've seen Carolina struggle and strike out a lot, it is against a lefty. But Aiden Weaver for Duke, he's a righty, had 11 strikeouts, and Carolina struck out 16 times in total. So he had his changeup going. This was definitely Weaver's best game of the season as well. But ultimately, you got the win. It was a pitcher's duel. We haven't seen too many of those this year, but Carolina got the win 3-1 in game one. So a good start to the series for sure.
Man, it's nice to see DeCaro kind of coming into form, right? You know, if he can continue to do that and be, I mean, we dug into it the last time I was with you. I know you guys have touched on him a lot, but he's the guy, right? He's been around the program for a while. He's finally this year, I believe, not the youngest kid on the team. So if he can continue to do that on Fridays, it's gonna be fun to watch. Because I mean, only 3 runs, but 3 runs was enough, right? Of course, I'm sure he'd like some more run support, but if he can continue to do that, man, it's gonna be huge for us.
Yeah, if you look at, and I put it somewhere down later in the notes, but if you look at the outings that DeCaro and Lynch had this past weekend, if they can pitch like that come ACC tournament time, NCAA tournament time, this is a team that's, especially in a 3-game series. So when you get to a super regional, right, they're going to be really hard to beat. So, hey, I mean, when they're pitching that way, you don't need a lot of runs. So you can occasionally, strike out 16 times and still win. Usually that's not a recipe for success. But yeah, it was nice to see that a night when the bats were off, that DeCaro was able to say, you know what, I'm going to put this squad on my back and we're going to get this win.
Yeah, he did what you expect an ace to do. And then you mentioned, so game 2, Lynch, he was just as good as, if not better, right? What did he got? 0 earned runs, 9 Ks, but just didn't get, enough help there throughout the whole time. But, that was a game that was we were like, these bats are, in my opinion, I was like, man, these bats have got to wake up at some point, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what we saw.
So I made the trip over, went to that game. I will say, shout out Jeff. Jeff just so happened to be like the one row behind me, just a couple seats over, and he was bringing the energy all night. So shout out to Jeff for that. But yeah, Ryan Lynch goes 7 innings, doesn't give up any runs or any earned runs. Duke did score 3 in the first, but all 3 of their runs came off 2 errors on the same play. So a ball was hit out to right field. Carter French kind of misplayed it. It bounces off his glove, and then it kind of skips away. And then he hits the cutoff guy, and the cutoff guy, I think it was either Gallagher or Schaffner. They throw it into the Duke dugout. So 3 runs scored there, and I'm thinking, hey, it's still early. 3 runs to this Carolina team lately has not been all that much. But the bats can never get going. It seemed like every time they got a guy on base, whether it was a hit or a walk, they ended up grounding into a double play. I think this was the game. They had, I think it was 3 double plays they hit into, all in important situations. Mateus came in, pitched really well, goes 1 inning, doesn't give up any hits, had 1 strikeout. But again, the bats just couldn't get going. Really outside of a Tyler Howell RBI, which I think might have been on a hit by pitch, and then Jake Schaffner getting a couple hits. The bats didn't do anything. Duke starter again, Peter Lemke, he was fantastic. He goes almost 8 innings, just gives up the 1 run. Similar to DeCaro on Thursday. He didn't have a ton of strikeouts, but Lemke had 13 ground ball outs and 7 flyouts. So he got that double play when he needed to, and he just had Carolina hitting into weak contact all game long. So not a fun game for the bats, but it was nice to see Lynch go out there and have a really good game. And I found out about halfway through that the woman sitting in front of me was actually Ryan Lynch's mother. And you talk about somebody being locked in. She was focused. She was locked in. So kudos to her. I mean, she had her full attention on Ryan's outing, and I hated that he couldn't get a little bit more run support in that one.
Yeah, man. And you mentioned locked in. To have those, I not deep in my high school career, but a younger age, I pitched some. And when you have errors like that, you can get like, come on, guys, like, what are you doing? You get in your head and you don't lock in. But obviously he stayed locked in the full game and gave the guys a chance, right?
Yeah.
But like you said, we just couldn't string together the hits. And your credit, the guy, the pitcher Peter, he did a good job. When he needed to get a ground ball, he put the ball, his placement in order to get those ground balls, that was clutch, because you couldn't, every time it seemed like we were gonna get some momentum, it was just like we killed ourselves there. But like I said, that offense, we knew it was going to wake up at some point, right?
Yeah.
And it came in game 3 as the Heels win 22-5 in 7 innings. And your guy, I'm gonna kick this. This is the guy that you've talked about a lot on here, so I'm gonna let you get into old Glover with us.
Yeah, so Caden Glauber gets to start here. This is his first weekend start. So he started a couple games, just a couple midweek games earlier in the year, but this is his first weekend rotation start. I had a couple people ask me, do I think this is permanent? I do not. We've seen Boaz start in that game 3 pretty much all season. Duke had 8 righties in the lineup in game 3. And so you look at a guy like Boaz, who's a lefty, a guy like Jackson Rose, who is also a lefty, who has started a handful of games this year. And you say, who gives us the best chance of winning here? I think Forbes was playing a little bit of matchup. And so I think that's why Glauber started.
Righty on righty.
Exactly. I do think Glauber in a big tournament game could get that start. We've talked before about how Lynch kind of got that start against Clemson last year in the ACC title game and then kind of kept that spot in the rotation for the rest of the season. So I think we could see that at some point, but I wouldn't be shocked if, next weekend against Pitt, if it's Boaz or Rose, back in, Boaz back in that game 3 start or spot, or Rose getting that spot as well. But it's a nice problem to have. You've got 3 guys in Boaz, Rose, and Glauber who you can kind of trust to go out there and give you some really good innings as a starter in a game 3 matchup. Glauber, for the first time in a long time, looked human, right? He still pitched well. He has four innings, gives up 3 runs. All 3 of his runs were via the home run. He gave up a solo shot in the first and then a 2-run shot in the third. But other than that, he was solid. Only gives up 5 hits, had 5 strikeouts, only 1 walk. So I don't want to give Glauber too hard of a time, because for most pitchers, this is still a pretty solid
good day's
outing.
work, right?
Yeah, exactly. But for Glauber, it's like, man, like that's an off day for him. So I think that's more of a shout out to how good he's been this year. But it was 3-3. So I was actually stuck at a 3-year-old's birthday party. So I was being antisocial, sitting there on this in this random house on the couch at this birthday party, watching the game on my phone. And Duke hits that 2-run shot to tie it at 3. And I'm like, man, look, we're in for a dogfight here. And it seemed like after that, the bats just took over. And 22 runs. They had 18 total hits. Schaffner was 4 for 5. Gallagher was 3 for 5. Holt had 3 hits. Winslow had 2 hits. Every starter except for 1 had a hit. They also walked 9 times. So this was just a fantastic game for the bats. I kind of wish we had some of those runs the day before, or even
just split them up a little bit.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Let's spread it out. Like last
Yeah.
time against Coastal, it would have been nice to have more than 2 runs. But I read somewhere, I think it was Pat James on Twitter, put out a tweet that this was the most runs scored in the Carolina game. And I think it might have been over 20 years. I think it was like 2003 or 4. I think it was against Princeton. And it was the most since 2000 against an ACC opponent when they scored, I think, 23 against Maryland. So Maryland's been out of the ACC for a while. So that had to be, that was a while ago.
Yeah.
But just an explosion. But like you said, I just kind of wish we had maybe spread it out a little bit more throughout the week.
And man, I want to shout out a guy because this kid, we talked about him a little bit when I was with you last time, but Owen Hull has been huge, man. You mentioned he had 1 home run, a double, 5 RBIs. How about that addition, man, and that kid and what he's been? We we mentioned it last time. Forbes and this staff with these transfers, it's
Knocked it
been
out of the
huge.
park. No pun intended. Yeah, he's killed it.
Yeah.
And you know, you look back, that was the biggest question mark coming into the year. You knew the pitching was going to be solid, but with all these new guys, you know, really Gavin Gallagher and to an extent Carter French being your only everyday guys coming back, could the guys mesh and could these other pieces fit? And you look at these transfers, and there's not a single one, regardless of whether they're from non-power four or a guy like Macon Winslow from Duke or a guy like Nicholson from JUCO ball who's really hitting the ball well right now. They've all been incredible gets. I mean, it seems like every game, one game it may be Hull getting 3-4 hits. One game it's Shafter. The next game it's Paulson. And so not only offensively, but defensively too. So yeah, we keep saying it, but credit to the staff because they've done just an incredible job of bringing in a bunch of guys who are talented from different levels who have never played together before and making it work. So kudos
Not
to them.
only the transfers, but how about the young arms?
Yeah.
Just the eye for talent, right? These you look at you got Caden, you got McDuffie, you know, all these young freaking flamethrowers that we have that just come
Jackson
in.
Rose,
They don't look
he's
like
another one,
freshmen, right?
yeah.
So it's abundance of talent in that room. If there's one thing that did concern me though, with this series, and you kind of brought it up, 16 strikeouts in game one, man, that was, you know, hopefully that's not a sign, you know, get it all out right there and you know, not a sign of things to come, because in the end, you know, you can have your ace and these pitchers, but we're going to have to score when it comes tournament time. You're going to have to score more than 3 runs a game to make a deep run and do what this team, you know, what we know they're capable of doing. I think this is one of the most talented, you know, from top to bottom teams we've had in a while.
Yeah.
When you look at it.
I told Chris, I think it was our first or second episode, that despite 2024 going to Omaha, despite last year being one game away, really one inning away, that I think this year's team is the most talented of the three. And that doesn't mean this team doesn't have, you know, its issues. And I think you're kind of spot on. Sometimes when they don't score early, right? So you look back at the Georgia Tech series week before last, every single game, even the game they lost, that was still a close game, they hopped on Georgia Tech early. They scored, you know, 2 runs or 3 runs in the first. I've noticed with this team that when they don't score early on, if they go to the, you know, 3rd, 4th, 5th inning and they're not getting runs across, that their approach at times starts to change a little bit. They're swinging first pitch quite a bit. They're sometimes, you know, not being patient at the plate. They're chasing pitches. It's almost like they're trying to get all the runs, you know, especially if they get down early. They're trying to get all the runs back at one time, right? And so I do think
Pressing a little.
Yeah, exactly. They're pressing. That's a good way of putting it. You're going to have games, especially come June and tournament time, where it may be a 2-0 game or a 1-0 game or, you know, 2-1 in the 6th inning. You got to have that same approach. This team's at its best when they're working counts, when they're walking, when, you know, they're not trying for the home run ball. If it happens, great, but they're just trying to find that gap, find that open space. So that's one thing that I think for this team to reach Omaha and reach the ultimate goal they have of hopefully winning a national championship, you got to keep that same approach and not kind of steer away from it. And I feel like when they've gotten down early or when the bats aren't coming out of the gate hot, that they kind of steer away from it. And you got to fix that for sure.
That's a good point, man. And you know, when you were talking about jumping early, just look at the Georgia Tech series. You know, we jumped on them early and, you know, didn't let up. And then game 3, we didn't, right? Bats were a little quiet and we didn't come out victorious. So that's a good point, man. Anything else you want to add on the Duke series?
No, it was nice to see they won. Sorry, my daughter's in here saying goodnight. I know. She's got a tattoo she has to show me.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was nice to see that they won in different ways. You know, game 1 was that pitcher's duel. DeCaro's fantastic. Bats aren't really doing much, but they still get the win. And then you turn around in game 3 and you drop 25 runs. So it was nice to see that they can win with the bats and they can win with, in a pitcher's duel as well. So that bodes well for the future.
Yeah, if you got your studs, doing that every week, the bats are going to do enough. I hope anyway. I don't want to jinx it, but with as talent as this roster is, they definitely will. So you want to go into your MVPs, Andrew? I know I love what you guys do with the MVPs, that you post the articles. So you had 3 MVPs this past weekend?
Yep, 2 pitchers and a hitter. So, and again, if you want to know or read more about this, Chris does a fantastic job. I literally, after the game 3 of each series, either that night or the next morning, I shoot him a text and I type up a little blurb for each one of these with their stat line. But he puts it on the website. So hillsonfranklin.com, it's right there under articles. And he puts, graphics up there with it. He puts some videos in there. So he does the hard part. I just kind of give him the information. But Jason DeCaro was my first MVP. Again, 7.2 innings pitched, second most innings he's pitched in a game this year. 0 earned runs, only 3 hits. And again, for a guy like DeCaro who has struggled with command a lot this year, for him to have 7 strikeouts to just 2 walks, that was huge for him. So definitely the best outing for him so far. And he needed that. He's been kind of up and down. So huge for DeCaro. Second MVP, Ryan Lynch. Again, I'm not going to go into too much detail. We've talked about him already. 7 innings
Look
pitched.
at his stat line, man. The thing that stands out with me is gave up 7 hits, but no earned runs.
Yeah. So when he got into trouble, he was able to get out of it. And to me, that's the sign of a really good pitcher. Pitching's hard. No matter what the level is, whether it's, high school, college, minor leagues, majors, it's hard to pitch, especially with, as talented as hitters are nowadays. So guys are going to get on base, right? It's what you do when a guy gets on base that is the sign of a good pitcher. So yeah, they had 7 hits, but it seemed like anytime they got a big hit, he would turn around and get a big strikeout or 2. Again, 9 Ks was a career high for him, and he only had 1 walk. And similar to DeCaro, Lynch is a guy who has struggled with command lately. He's had a lot of 3-2 counts, 3-1 counts, guys fouling off pitches. His pitch count's gotten up. So for him to go 7, that was really good to see too. And then my third guy, Owen Hull. And again, you've already touched on him. He's the best bat in Carolina's lineup. Maybe doesn't have the most power, although he's been showing power more lately, but really the most consistent bat. He hit 5 for 12 on the weekend. That's a .417 average. He had a homer. Again, he's been showing more power over the last couple of weeks. 2 doubles, 7 RBIs, and then just for fun, he threw in 2 walks. So
just for fun.
so it's a guy. A guy like Owen Hull has got to be so difficult to pitch against because he's got enough power where you have to respect that. He's got really good gap power. And he's fast. So he can get that double, that triple from time to time. But you can't really shift on a guy like Owen Hull because he's kind of a spray hitter. He can go to all parts of the ballpark. Yeah. And there's been a few times this year where a team has maybe tried to shift on him, and he's just hit it away from the shift. So I think out of all of Carolina's hitters, and we've got some good ones, Owen Hull has got to be the most frustrating for opposing pitchers to face.
Yeah, I agree, man. And I want to, before we turn the page here, I want to shout out a couple people. I missed some messages here. We got Devin joining us again. Devin's a loyal supporter of all our episodes. So, Devin, thank you. Good evening. And then I noticed we were wondering earlier the highest score. And so highest score was 25 against Princeton in 2010. So was a long time ago, man. It's crazy. We're getting old. It doesn't seem like 2010 was that long ago, right?
2010, it was my freshman year of college, right? So I was on that 6-year college plan. I was enjoying myself, not wanting to go into the workforce. So it took me a while to graduate. But 2010 was my first year of college. I'm in my 30s now. So that makes me feel a little old.
That was my freshman year of high school, 2010. It goes by fast.
I will say I meant to look it up and I forgot, but I was wondering if that Princeton game was a run. It's weird. Some games the run rule is in effect. Some games it's not. So I'd be interested to know whether that 25 runs against Princeton was in 7 innings or if that was in 9 innings. So I need to go back and check that.
That is
And
an interesting note because
I may throw.
I'm trying to remember back then. Like, did they have run?
See, that's the thing. I
don't.
don't remember.
Yeah, I don't
Because
either.
I know even nowadays it's kind of up to, I think, the home team. I know LSU's had a few games where they've, over the last couple of years, where they've dropped like 26, 27, and it'll be like 25-3 in the eighth inning and they're still going. So I think it's kind of up to the home team. So I need to look into that and see. Was that a 9 inning 25 or was that a 7 inning 25?
Yeah, and if you know Devin, please let us know if you do
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, that'll cover it for Duke. Like I told you at the beginning, we got to talk about this game, but I'm not looking forward to talking about it. Were you there last night?
Yeah. I left in the seventh inning, when Coastal kind of ran away with it. I said I had my 4-year-old there.
Did you get you a hot dog?
Oh, we're going to talk about that.
Okay,
Trust me.
okay, okay.
I'm bringing this up. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm waiting for the perfect time. We're going to talk about it. But yeah, I was there with my daughter, and 7:00 start time. We live in Winston, so it's about an hour and a half, not quite an hour and a half away from Chapel Hill. And so when Coastal started to run away with it, I said, you know what? Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully they come back, but let's get home, get you, a bath in your pajamas and in bed at a decent hour, so that you're not the 4-year-old from where tomorrow morning at school. When it's time to get up and go to school.
I've been there. I know what you mean.
It's not fun. And I will give her credit. We still got home pretty late. She got in bed around 10:15, so well past bedtime. But she was actually in a better mood this morning than I was. So I got to give her some credit there.
There you go. Well, hey, so what like I told you, I had some things to do last night. I caught the game. By the time I got home, it was 9-3, and I didn't. It's hard for me when we lose. I don't really, with all sports, I don't really care to watch the highlights, to be honest with you. Sometimes I'll go back and still watch it and try to get caught up. But I didn't last night. So what went wrong last night, and what was the biggest thing that you saw? Was it we didn't jump on them early, or what was in your eyes?
Well, I'll say this: you're better than me because I'm the complete opposite. After a loss, I'm scrolling Twitter, refreshing it every 30 seconds, and then I go check the message boards. And if you know message boards after a loss, it's regardless of sport, football, basketball, baseball, who cares what the sport is? It's a mess. So I need to maybe take a page out of your playbook and just put the phone down, maybe read a book, watch a movie after a loss or something like that, because I let it eat me up. But yeah. Jackson Rose started the game, which he's been your midweek starter for a few weeks now. He didn't go super long. He looked solid. I think Forbes just wanted to get multiple guys in, with it being, they're not being a weekend series this weekend. But he goes 1.2 innings pitched, only gives up 1 run, had 3 strikeouts, 2 walks. Carolina actually had a 2-1 lead going into the 6th inning, right? So Cooper Nicholson hit it. Coastal had a leadoff walk in the first, and then had a single that scored the guy. So they were up 1-0. Carolina then hits a 2-run shot from Nicholson, and I think it was the 2nd inning, and it stayed at 2-1 for a while. McDuffie comes in, and McDuffie was fantastic. He had 8 strikeouts and 4 1/3 innings pitched, only had 1 walk. And in fact, at one point, I looked to the person next to me, and I said, this may be the best McDuffie's looked all season. And then the 6th inning hit. And it's not all Walker McDuffie's fault. That it really started to kind of spiral out of control. It was a hard hit ball, but it was hit to Owen Hull in center field. And again, I don't want to pile on the guy because he's been phenomenal both offensively and defensively all year. But it almost is like he short-armed it. He reached up, and the ball just kind of glanced off the top of his glove. It was a play. I don't know if he took his eyes off it, or if he thought, he just had it and he closed his glove too. So I don't know what happened, but it should have been an out. The ball falls in for a double. And after that, things just kind of fell apart. Forbes ends up pulling McDuffie. I think it was 3-2. And then Mateus comes in. So Matty Mateus comes in the 7th inning, and it was hard hit double off the wall, bunt single, hard hit double off the wall. And from there, from the 7th inning on, it was over. Coastal took over. Carolina had no answer for their bats. Forbes brought in 3 or 4 other guys that all struggled. And then Carolina's bats just couldn't get anything going. So it was a close game. Carolina had the lead, in the second half of the game. But really after that mistake in center field, it just kind of spiraled and things kind of fell apart. So that shows you kind of how important a single play can be for the rest of the game. There's no guarantee that he makes that catch, Carolina wins, but you could really feel
snowballed after that.
Exactly. It snowballed, and you could feel all the momentum kind of flip over to Coastal, and they took advantage of that.
And those are huge, man, too, when you look at, especially at that point with McDuffie, pitch count's getting up there. The pitch count goes on when you give up outs, and, it kind of tax on a guy. But I guess if that is a bright spot that I got out of it, it is, McDuffie is McDillon. That's what I'll say.
Yeah.
He's back to Walker that we thought we'd see this year. And I think that you hit the nail on the head there because, with that stat line, 4 innings, 8 Ks, that's probably the best outing. I'll agree with you there.
Yeah, he had his slider working, his changeup, his fastball always has good bite to it. So he had all 3 of his pitches working. I will say too, you look at the final score 12-2, and you're like, there's no positives. Like you said, McDuffie's outing, despite kind of the rough 6th inning, that was a positive. But one other positive is Gavin Gallagher. He's really struggled lately. We talked about him quite a bit last episode. He had, I think, in the 22-run game against Duke, he had, I think, 3 or 4 hits. And then last night he had 2 hits as well. So this is a guy who is known around Chapel Hill for what he does in the postseason. And we're really 2 days away from May. The postseason's almost here. So I really think this may be time where we're seeing Gavin Gallagher come out of that slump. So a couple positives despite, it being a 10-run ugly game for sure.
Good points, man. I'm going to get back here. We have an answer to our question, Andrew. So they did play all 9 innings, and the win mercy rule was being started and used at that time, but didn't really gain momentum until 2020s. Okay. Learn something new every day.
What's the show? Is it PTI that at the end of the show they have their errors and omissions, and they have somebody whose sole job is like correct or anything they got wrong? So Devin can be our statistician, our errors and omissions person.
There we go. PTI, man.
That
show's been around forever.
Yeah.
But good stuff, man. I will say and this kind of goes into what we're going to talk about, next. You mentioned postseason play coming up. After that Georgia Tech series, I was like, man, we might have a chance to be number 1, right? I thought that was a strong chance we'd be number 1. And then I looked at this matchup. I was like, man, we beat number 9. We take care of them. That's going to boost it up, that resume, a little more. But obviously it didn't go our way last night. But we got Devin here with another this will kind of lead us into our next one. I was saving it. So before we turn the page.
It slipped my mind. So, Devin, thank you for bringing this back up. Okay. I've got a bone. So, Chris will tell you, and if you've watched our past episodes, right, the first dollar dog night Carolina had wasn't even a night. It was literally dollar dog day because it was like a midweek game against UNCG at 4:00. All right. So, that was my first gripe. Like you can't call it dollar dog night and it be at a 4:00 start. So I'm thinking, hey, Coastal Carolina, top 10 matchup, dollar dog night. Game doesn't start till 7. I can get off work, pick my daughter up, grab my wife from work. We're going to go to this game, and I'm going to eat. I'm hitting double digits, right? This is going to be easy. So
I'm hitting double digits.
Like my goal was 12. I'm not even going to make this up. Like I didn't eat during the day yesterday. I didn't eat breakfast. I didn't eat lunch. A coworker
Andrew said he's Joey Chestnut. He's coming Joey Chestnut to the botch.
Yeah, I was going full Joey Chestnut, right? So I'm thinking like, here we go. Like I'm going to hit double digits. It's going to be easy. And we get there, and it was me, my wife, my daughter, my mom, right? My mom, she took one for the team. She goes, I'm going to go stand in line. I'll get us the first round of hot dogs. So she gets there, and at first, they're like, you can only take 4, which I get, right? I understand, like, you can't go up to the concessions back. I want 35 hot dogs. Can't do that. So she comes back. She has 8 in her hand. I'm like, did you pull some strings here, Mom? Like, what are you doing? And she said, well, I was next in line. They had run out. She said they had to go get more and bring them over. I waited about 20 minutes, and the guy said, you know what? I'm going to give you 8. So it was 4 for me. It was 1 for my daughter, 1 for my wife, 2 for my mom. I'm like, okay, second inning, I've eaten 4. I'm on a good pace here. Third inning hits. They come over the loudspeaker there at the Bosch, and they say something along the lines of, those fans in the Bosch, we've consumed 3,200 hot dogs, and that will end our $1 dog night promotion. Now, my wife had left about 15 minutes prior to get back in line to get me 4 more hot dogs. Okay. So I'm thinking, first off, here's my one issue. If you ran out, that's terrible planning, because you got a top 10 team, late spring, or it's spring, beautiful weather. It was a little cool last night, but beautiful weather. Top 10 matchup, 7 o'clock start. If you only had 3,200 hot dogs, that's like, what are we doing here? Okay, so that's number one. But number 2, if you didn't run out, if you capped it at 3,200, here's my issue with that. The Bosch holds 4,100 people. So if you capped the
we don't even have a dog for one person each. Right?
If you cap it at 3,200, that's not even. I mean, I'm no mathematician, but that, like you said, that's less than 1 hot dog per person. Okay, and if my only other thought was, well, maybe they're just going to only run the promotion through 3 innings. But if that's the case, I need some fine print here. You got to let me know that, hey, we're stopping this after the 3rd inning, so I can send my wife ahead of time to go grab me 4 more hot dogs so I can at least get 8.
Or so you can eat throughout the day, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm thinking, she comes back, and I'm like, surely she was gone for about 25 minutes. Surely she got the last few hot dogs or something. Comes back empty-handed. So here it is. No, it's 3rd inning. I've had 4 hot dogs, which for most people is like probably, more than enough. But for me, haven't eaten all day. I've consumed no calories going into that game. It's not enough. So whoever's in charge at the Bosch of the promotions, give me a call, because we need to have a chat. I need to give you some help, because unacceptable. Beyond, the loss was bad enough. But you run out of dogs or whatever in the 3rd inning, you got to do better.
So we need to have dollar dog night back, and we need at least 13,000 hot dogs is what I'm getting out of it, Andrew.
Easily. And run it through the 6th inning, right? The lines were long. It's a top 10 matchup. I'd say the Bosch was probably 90 to 95% full, right? Run it through the 6th, 7th inning, and then if you want to call it after I've had my 10 to 12 hot dogs, then you can call it. But you got to do better.
I like it. I love it, man. That was a good a good segment. Maybe we can get us a hot dog sponsor now to support us.
Yeah, we need something.
Awesome, man. I will say that it was pretty cool. They had a little hot dog line. I don't know if you saw that on Twitter, where they put all the wrappers together. That was pretty cool. So at least they did enough for that. But good stuff, man. Well, you mentioned May coming up, postseason play coming up. We've got bracket talk already. So, I've got you with some nice notes here going into postseason play. I'm gonna let you take it away and talk about that.
Yeah. So the 2 big kind of bracketologists that I've looked at, and I'm one of these that I look at bracketology way too early. I do it for basketball. I mean, I'm looking at like Joe Lunardi's first bracket in like December, and I'm getting mad. I'm like, what's he doing? Right. So I do the same thing for baseball. So there's a good chance none of this will be the case. But D1 baseball has UNC as the number 4 national seed. I think that's about right. They're really kind of fighting for that top 4 spot. It's really between Carolina, Georgia Tech, UCLA, Texas, and then there's a couple other teams in that mix there. But it's got them as the number 4 national seed, with ECU as the 2 seed, High Point as the 3 seed, and Navy as the 4. So that would be a state of North Carolina heavy regional.
ECU, yeah, that would be.
Talk about some good crowds. I mean, ECU is going to put some fans there. High Point has some money, so they're going to have some fans there. And funny enough, if that happens, that would be 2 teams that Carolina has played this year. ECU is the series that I love. That's probably my favorite series every season. They do one time in Greenville, one in Durham at the DBAP, and then one in Chapel Hill. They split the series this year, win, loss, and tie. And then High Point, Carolina beat just a couple weeks ago. So, but they beat High Point pretty easily, but that High Point team is sneaky good. So we could see some rematches for sure if that comes to fruition.
I like it, man. And some other stats that I thought was interesting that you brought up here. Even with we see the times where this offense can slump. But overall, I mean, steady 31st nationally with 8.2 runs per game, which is, if you score 8 runs per game with this pitching staff, we're gonna be in good shape. So it's gonna be fun to watch, man. But I would love to see it. You mentioned this early, but I would love to see that with ECU for sure. We especially after that first game, what was it, the rain delay, or I think it got called early.
Yeah, it was game 3.
Yeah.
It was the rain delay. Me and Chris were there, and man, it was cold. I'm there, and I didn't get the weather memo, so I was there in shorts and sandals, freezing my butt off. But ECU fans were a little. They were talking a little smack afterwards. They Carolina won. They beat their ace Ethan Norby in Greenville. And then ECU turned around and they kind of took Carolina to the woodshed a bit in game 2 in Durham. And then game 3 was tied. And we had some ECU fans on Twitter saying that Carolina was running from the smoke. Right. So I would like a rematch there. But again, High Point is not a team to overlook as that 3 seed. Like they could mess around. And if they get hot at the right time, they could win a regional. So High Point's no pushover either.
Yeah, program on the rise for sure. I follow a little bit of their recruiting, and next year they're landing some pretty good ball players coming in there next year. They're doing a good job.
Yeah. I work about 10 minutes from HPU, so it is pretty cool to see kind of the success their basketball team has had, and now you see their baseball team is having some success. So it's cool to see. Baseball America is the other kind of bracketologist site, I guess, that I consistently look at. They also have Carolina as the number 4 overall national seed, but they have the rest of the regionals quite different. They have Tennessee as the 2 seed, St. Joseph's as the 3, as the winners of the A10, and then Binghamton as the 4 seed. I just think, selfishly, I think a UNC Tennessee regional matchup would be fun. That's still fairly close. I think Knoxville's 4.5, 5 hours from at least for me here in Winston, maybe a little bit farther away from Chapel Hill, but they would put some good fans, a lot of fans there. But I just think SEC, ACC, that would be a fun matchup too.
That would be Tennessee. They kind of remind me of ECU. Big crowd. The fans are a program. Them Tennessee fans will show up if it's in Chapel Hill for sure. I want to ask you about something before we go and end our baseball. I thought this was interesting, man. I was on Twitter today. Baseball team was supposed to play tonight, right, against Queens.
Yeah, against Queens.
And it was canceled. And you brought up a good point. We're talking about brackets, bracketology and the brackets. And you had a theory that you thought maybe it wasn't no point in playing the game, but you wish they would have played. So can you go a little deeper into that for me? So it was kind of like, this is a game that's not going to do you any good either way, right? Whether you play it or you lose.
Yeah, I threw up a tweet earlier. I don't want to say I was calling Carolina out because I wasn't. There was no harm in my tweet, but I could see where maybe it could be taken that way. But Carolina was supposed to play Queens today, and Queens currently ranks, if you look at the net rankings, they're 250th in the net. So this was a game that if Carolina loses, obviously your RPI is going to drop. RPI is a very flawed metric, but especially in baseball, the selection committee uses it a lot. Like they look at RPI as really one of the RPI net kind of as the 2 main factors for seeding. So obviously if you lose this game to Queens, your RPI is going to go down. But this is one of those rare games where even if you win, regardless of score, if you win, because Queens is so low in the net, your RPI is going to drop still, regardless. So this is kind of a lose-lose for Carolina. You win, you go down, your RPI drops. You lose, it obviously drops. So I think, again, I have no proof, so I don't want no one clip me and say that I'm spreading false rumors. This is my opinion. I think this was a decision to say, you know what? There's a slim chance of rain. Let's call this game and say, oh, due to the potential threat of bad weather, of rain, we're not going to have the game. But I think it's more to avoid having that RPI drop. And with baseball specifically, you actually see this a lot come late April, May, when you have a team that's fighting for a top 8 or top 16 seed. If they're playing a team that's really low in the net, they'll come up with every excuse in the book not to have that game. Oh, our bus has a flat tire. The whole squad got food poisoning. The starting pitcher's exam for his English 101 class went too long and he's got to go. His hand's cramping up, right? They come up with excuses. So I think this was a bit of an excuse to avoid that game. I don't like it. I'm selfish. I want to see more Carolina baseball.
Makes sense, though.
Yeah, and I get it. Like, I get why it happens. But I wanted to kind of hopefully get that bad taste from last night out of their mouths. Now we have to kind of sit here and stew on the Coastal loss for 5 days before they play Duke as a non-conference game on Sunday. So I would have preferred to see them play, but I definitely understand why when you see, hey, there's a chance of some rain, let's go ahead and just call the game.
I like it, man. I saw that and I was like, I want to ask Andrew about that tonight because I really, to be honest with you, I don't follow the bracket. I do more so basketball than I do baseball. I don't follow it as much. So I wanted to get your take on that. So good stuff, man. Well, any last minute baseball things before we shift to softball?
One other thing that I just want to point out, and I want to focus on this mainly because last night in the post-game presser, Scott Forbes talked about this. He mentioned it a couple times. Carolina's pitching staff is phenomenal. You've got DeCaro, you've got Lynch as your two, top weekend starters. You've got Glauber, who can start if need be, but is probably better suited right now out of the pen. You've got Jackson Rose, you've got McDuffie, but Carolina really needs another guy to step up and be a more consistent arm out of the bullpen. You've seen it some from Matty Mateus. There's been times this year where he's been virtually unhittable. But then he'll turn around and have a game like last night where he doesn't even get, an out, or he gets, just a couple outs, allows a few runs. Cameron Seagraves is very similar. He'll have an outing where he's fantastic, and then he'll turn around and have an outing where he really struggles. So come tournament time, there's going to be games where McDuffie's not available or Glauber's not available, or Rose has pitched 3-4 innings and he's kind of tapped out, needs to come out. You got to have a more consistent arm, whether it's Mateus, Cam Padgett, Seagraves. For this team to make it to Omaha and make a deep run in Omaha, potentially win it all with the talent, because they have the talent to do so, they have to have more consistency from kind of that middle portion of the bullpen. You have your top two guys, but you need a third or fourth guy to say, you know what, I'm going to give you consistent innings multiple times throughout the tournament. And I think if they get that, this team is a real threat to win it all come June.
I like it, man. Well, I hope they will, because I have looked at it, man, and I want to go to Omaha this year.
Me too. I'm telling
you. Have you ever been?
I have not.
Me either.
When they made it in 2024, I promised myself, because it's like my sports bucket list, Omaha is number one.
Yep. And
I promised myself, I don't care what the situation is, the next time they make it to Omaha, I'm going. So if I've got to camp out in a parking lot somewhere, if all the hotels are booked, I got to sleep in my car, I'm going to make it happen. Like if they make it this year, I will be there. 17, 18-hour road trip. I'm doing it. Let's roll.
That would be fun, man. Well, good stuff. Well, we'll make a transition here. And before we do, I want to shout out to Devin. Hopes Coastal gets knocked out. I don't want to play him either. I hate playing Coastal. Our guy Rev, I think he was a big guy in the chat. He's a big supporter of the baseball. Rev with the HPU campus is immaculate, right? That's what I've heard.
It's nice.
Yeah.
In fact, I've actually never been on the actual campus because I've tried to go in and it's like gated off, and there's like brick walls with like golden tip spikes throughout all the brick, and they won't let you in. Like you can't get in without a pass. But from the outside, it looks phenomenal. They have like a 5-star steakhouse. They've got a bowling alley. It's almost like a resort as a campus. To me, I've got some issues with HPU. We'll get into another day, but yeah, it's super nice.
That's awesome. Looks like we got some. Let's see, Devin chatting VP. Like it, comments are flowing in. Devin again. If we hadn't just bought a house, I might have tried to talk my home. Hey, Devin, you guys get a house and we're road tripping. That's a rent a room for us. We'll bring an air mattress, right?
I will say I've talked to Maddie. She was on with us a couple weeks ago, and I didn't realize till we were on the episode that she's from Omaha. So I told her, hey, if we
that's what this is about right here.
Yeah. If we make it, she said she still has family there. I promise I won't do anything weird. I'll just camp out in your backyard. I promise.
Bring a tent.
Yeah, I'll bring a tent. I won't bother you. I'll go buy my own food. So I told Maddie I may need lodging help and I may need some restaurant recommendations for sure.
There we go. That's awesome, man. Well, we will transition here. And we're talking about, you mentioned postseason play and we're transitioning to the softball team, man. And I don't want to step on toes or anything. They do an amazing job, the the softball program, the coach's corner. But I do want to say, man, I'm kind of the team's slumping right now, and this might be the best offensive team we've had in program history as long as I've been following the softball program anyway. And there's a chance right now where we may not make the tournament with the way things are looking, but we'll do a deep dive. So right now they're softball team coming in 31-18 on the year, 9-15 in conference play, just coming off a series against Virginia Tech, which is a good softball program. They're ranked 13th in the country right now, but got swept 0-3 on the road this week, and right now on a 7-game losing streak. But game one, we looked at it. It was a close one, 6-5 loss, back and forth game throughout the whole time. I know I was talking to Chris. He had hoped he was going to go up and actually cover the game. Ended up getting sick, so he couldn't make it. But I did tune in a little bit. But it was a back and forth game. Virginia Tech took a 2-1 lead in the 4th inning. We scored 2 in the 5th to go up 3-2. And then it was kind of back and forth throughout 5-4 going into the 7th. And then Virginia Tech got a leadoff walk and then ended up with a 2-run walk-off homer. And we just couldn't close the deal. And that was a game, man, with the slump we were on, coming on the losing streak. That game one, I think, if we could have came out with that one, that could have potentially turned the whole weekend around.
Yeah.
But, nonetheless, we couldn't get it done. Couple girls that I did want to shout out, though, in that Friday game. Jill, she continued to pitch good, 4.2 innings pitched, allowed just 2 runs, 4 hits. And this is a Virginia Tech team that were ranked 4th nationally in runs per game at 7.6 runs per game. So she did a good job. And Lexi Roberts, too, continues to do her part and get on base. She extended her on base streak to 29 games, which matches the most by any Tar Heel this season. So some quick shout outs to them. Anything you want to add on with game one?
Yeah, it was a tough loss. This was a series where you took 1 of 3 against Duke, right? So the back end of Carolina's softball schedule is murderer's row. I mean, you had ranked Duke, you had ranked Florida State in Tallahassee last week, and then you got to go on the road again to a ranked VT school. They won 1 against Duke. That was Coach Smith's first win against Duke since coming back to Carolina to coach. Then you go down to Tallahassee, you get swept. You start to feel a little uneasy about the NCAA tournament, but you're like, you know what? You got a huge opportunity ahead on the road, ranked VT team. And for them to lose the way they did, it's a bit heartbreaking because this is a series. We'll talk about game 3 here in a bit too. But games 1 and games 3, you could argue Carolina should have won. They had control. And it's just if one pitch here is made or if one hit here is made, they're winning that series. And they're not sitting there on Selection Sunday hoping to get in. It's not, are we getting in? It's where are we going? And so as of right now, Softball America has Carolina as one of the first 4 teams out. It's tough for them to have lost the way they did because they're so close. They're right there. Chris has talked about with his interviews with Coach Smith, the culture she's bringing to Carolina, right? She's building something special. So regardless of whether they make the tournament or not this year, the foundation's been laid. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't sting a little bit if on Selection Day you're on the outside looking in. And really, unless they make a deep run in the ACC tournament, they're going to be on the outside looking in. And it's like they're so close. One pitch here against VT or one hit here. Earlier in the year against a ranked Virginia team, they almost took the series, right? They had the lead late in Game 3, and they let it slip away. You have 2 or 3 extra wins there against ranked teams, and this team is in the tournament. So it's you're so close, but that doesn't make it hurt any less. If anything, that makes it hurt more when you're looking back and you're like, man, just what if? So I think Coach is building something great, but the way this season's ending, barring a really deep run, and this team has the talent. They can make a deep run come ACC tournament next weekend up in Charlottesville. But barring a deep run, you're left like the future's bright, but man, if we could have just taken care of business in a couple of other games, we could have extended our season a little bit.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. When I've got the chance to watch them, man, this team's exciting to watch. So I hope that deep run, I ain't gonna give up yet. I hope that deep run's that's coming because there is enough talent to do it. If, like you said, if we can just string together a few plays here or a few hits here. But we'll talk. Game 2, we didn't go into it yet, but they lost 14-5, and the 5 runs were scored in the first 2 innings. So unlike we talk about the baseball jumping on them early, we jumped on them early, but the pitching struggled. Game 2, Virginia Tech scored 3 or more runs out of the 4 of the next 5 innings. Didn't score any in the 4th, but they racked up a total of 17 hits. This was a game, though. I will mention Emily Leggett, or as I think Chris or somebody, it may have been Chris, gave her the nickname Legoat, Emily Legoat. So she set the program record for total bases in a single season this game. So congrats to her. Transfer from Virginia Tech, I believe, right, Andrew? So
it's got to sting a bit more for her. That she couldn't, that they couldn't get a couple big wins against them.
So Rev actually gave it her nickname. There we go.
Yeah, that's right. Rev, shout out Rev.
Shout out Rev.
Rev's been kind of quiet tonight. He's commented a little bit, but Rev's been kind of quiet. He was late last week too. Rev, you're off in the game, man. What's going on?
Come on now, Rev. We'll turn in. You mentioned a little bit about Game 3. This was, I agree with you. This is a game that, just like that first game, we could have won. We should have won, in my opinion, right? Virginia Tech went up early, 3-1. 5th, we answered back, scored 3, 4-3 lead, and then late, another 2-run homer late in the 6th inning. We had our opportunity, though. This goes back to what you talk about, a hit here, loaded up the bases in the top of the 7th, but then a fly out to end it. And like I mentioned earlier, this with the 3 games there, this is now a 7 straight losses. And it was a heartbreaker, man, because those are 2, we could have easily took 2 out of 3 there in Virginia Tech, and that would have been a big series win, but we just couldn't hold on to it.
It's like I said, they're so close to breaking through, and not only being a team that just makes the tournament, but a team that can make some noise in the tournament. And we'll talk about it here in a second. Again, Coach Smith is laying a foundation that give it a couple years. This is going to be a team that I think is right up there with the Dukes, with the FSUs, with the Stanfords, the Virginia Techs, these ranked teams that can make noise come May and June NCAA tournament time. So regardless of what happens in Charlottesville in the ACC tournament, the foundation for next year and the year after has been built, and I'm excited no matter what for the next couple of years.
I agree. Chris is here in the comments. Good point. They can hit with anybody.
They can.
So, yep. Hopefully, as you mentioned, Charlottesville coming up, ACC tournament. Hopefully, we can make a deep run. As of right now, looks like we're going to be the 10 seed playing Clemson. So, the winner will face Louisville. So, hopefully, girls will be watching and supporting like always. So, we are looking for a deep run in the tournament. But cool, man. Well, anything else, Andrew, you want to touch on tonight that we haven't covered, or?
Just a few kind of stats for softball. Chris threw these up in our notes last minute, so I kind of glanced at them, but I haven't really taken a deep dive into them yet. But he said earlier that this team can hit with anyone, and that's not hyperbole at all. They really can hit with the best teams in the country. This year alone, they've got the most runs in program history. At 395, most homers in program history with 97, best batting average in program history, best slugging percentage, best OBP, most players with 10 or more home runs, most players with 30 more RBIs, and Emily Leggett and Shelby Barbie became the first pair of UNC teammates to both have over 60 RBIs. So this team is, regardless of opponent, I know they may have played some teams that are higher ranked, but this squad, this lineup can score runs on pretty much anybody. And we've seen that. They've had big scoring outings against lots of ranked teams. And then beyond that, they're tied for they tied the record for most runs in a single game earlier this year with 24. Chris, I need you to do a quick search and let me know who that was against. I feel like I should know that, but off the top of my head, I can't remember. And then one other final thing. We've talked so much this year, and deservedly so, about Emily Leggett. I saw a tweet that UNC softball put out today. She is one of 25 finalists for National Player of the Year. She has the most single-season homers in program history this year with 26. Most sac flies, most total bases, second most RBIs ever, second best batting average, second best on base percentage. So, she's just completely
470 batting average.
Yeah. She's getting on base at hitting.
Just hitting
almost half at bats.
Yeah.
And she's getting on base in almost 6 out of every 10 at bats. And so that she's completely rewriting the record books. Sanaa Thompson has a lot of other kind of records as well. Most runs in program history, second most hits. Barbie, most HBPs, fifth most RBIs in program history, second most sac flies, fifth best slugging. Lexi Roberts, second most sac bunts in program history. So those are 4 players right there that when pitchers face them, you're getting somebody that has a very, very good chance of getting on base and scoring a run. So, man, this lineup has been fun. If you have not tuned in and watched Carolina softball, I try to watch as many games as I can, or at least catch parts here and there. This softball team, you've got a few more games, ACC tournament, hopefully maybe NCAA tournament, but you've got a couple more weeks to watch them. Check them out. This offense is, again, no exaggeration, arguably one of the best offenses in all of college softball.
I like it, man. I like it. And free parking. I learned that earlier.
Yes.
Free parking if you I don't know if they have any games at home now, actually. I may have dropped that.
Well, remember that for next year. Year.
That's right.
And I will say, I interviewed Coach Smith a few weeks ago as part of the Coach's Corner. Chris was kind enough to let me take over, despite my Wi-Fi issues that day. But they do so much. The softball team is all about family and building this program up. And they have this amazing I'm drawing a blank on the name, but this amazing program where the softball team, the players, mentor young girls, young softball players from all over the country. Coach said they had, I think, kids fly in from Texas, come in from Georgia, all these other states, and they mentor these. So if you have a young girl or even a young son, take them to Anderson. I guarantee you, players, coaches, they'll take time to sign autographs, to greet your kids, to not just say hey in passing, but to really stop and have a conversation. And I think out of everything, with this being really my first year paying a lot of attention, I've always kind of paid attention, but really kind of diving deep into softball, it's really stood out to me kind of the culture and the family atmosphere that Coach Smith has built. You know, so many programs and teams across the country preach family, but Coach Smith lives it. So shout out to her for that.
I was going to say that was where I was going to go with it, is being able to just listen in on some of the interviews. That's kind of, it's like a family, man. And I know she's been so welcoming to Chris and, you know, you and the whole Hills on Franklin crew. So we appreciate them and all they do from top to bottom. So cool, man. Well, it's been fun. Any closing thoughts before I close this out?
Hey, non-conference game against Duke on Saturday for baseball. You know, so that's a little weird. ACC tournament coming up for softball. So we still, you know, kind of in exam week right now. That's why there's no series this weekend. But we still got some fun baseball and softball coming up. And maybe with the days off, whoever runs the promotions for baseball can figure out this dollar dog night thing and fix it for next time.
There we go. It's getting weather's heating up. These bats are going to heat up.
Yep.
Gavin's going to heat up, and all is going to be right in the world if we can figure out the hot dog situation. Right.
That's it. That's right.
Well, Andrew, I appreciate it, man. It's been fun tonight. Devin, we appreciate you. Rev, everybody in the comments, Chris, all you guys that support us and watch. I think we've got about 250 tuned in live right now. So we appreciate all of you. I mentioned it at the beginning. I'm going to mention it again. Please, guys, as a grassroots network, podcast, all our shows, we are, trying to grow. So we appreciate all your support. If you are not subscribed to YouTube, please subscribe, give us a like, comment, let us know where you're listening from. We would love to interact with more of you guys, because we want to, one thing that I've loved, man, since I've been able to jump on this and really get this thing rolling, when we started with just me and Troy and Chris, and it's kind of taken off to all these other shows that Chris and you guys are building. It's the people we're able to meet, and it's like a family, man. Honestly, the support that you guys come in each night. So we appreciate you. But like I said, if you haven't yet subscribed, please give us a subscribe. And if you do not listen on YouTube, we're also on Spotify. So give us a follow on there. But I appreciate it, Andrew. It's been fun. I'm going to close this thing out the only way that I know how to do it. And that is, until next time, go Heels.
Thank you for listening to Heels on the Diamond, presented by Heels on Franklin. If this episode hit the mark, do us a favor. Like it, drop a comment, and share it with a friend. That kind of support keeps the podcast rolling. You can find all episodes on the Heels on Franklin YouTube channel and on Spotify. So whether you like watching or listening, we've got you covered. We will see you next time.